Well, yes, it's the economy, stupid. Today we're going to cover a few things having to do with the skilled trades. We are going to be enjoying, I saw it yesterday going to the store to try to do something to deal with the new electronic systems we put in for heating, I guess, in this building. So I now have a space heater that looks like a fireplace, and because the new system, being energy efficient, cannot keep up with the deep cold we've had here in the past week. So, joy. In any case, we're going to enjoy this eggnog latte. I normally don't go for these foofy drinks. I was going to actually speak on the holiday blend from Starbucks. I'm not a fan of Starbucks, but thought, what the heck, some people might be, so we'll go ahead and take care of you guys. We are going to discuss 2025 in the trades. I know it's not quite New Year's yet, but really I think the topic is pretty good, seeing as what we've experienced in 2025 over past years. It's so exciting now that since the past 3 years, and while I was literally working on this this morning, I said, you know what, let's go to AI and ask ChatGPT to give us a little bit of a hand, and it did an update, and I was like, oh boy, more stuff. So I said, let's, first remind me who came up with the whole concept or the statement of it's the economy, stupid. And that actually comes back to like right after I had been out in the Navy for a few years and I was working on some other stuff. And basically, that was James Carville. In 1992, for the Clinton campaign, George Bush was really popular. We had just won the Cold War, all this other phenomenal stuff. And by golly, we were unfortunately undergoing a little bit of stress. Now, I don't like getting into politics when we do this stuff, and I am promising to stay neutral in it. But we're going to discuss some of the things that have occurred over 2025 and how they've affected small business, the trades. And it's not just public policy, but it is the new concept of AI, all of the hype, all of the media stuff, all of the social media stuff. So we've got traditional and social media and all these kind of different things. I'm going to give you observations as a small business owner. Oh, I'm sorry, the new term, founder, I guess, but I founded this thing back in 2000. 3. So, 2001 technically, but neither here nor there. Took a short break in the middle because of, the last time the economy stupid happened in 2008. And my contracts happen to be with small companies like General Motors and U.S. Steel and folks like that. So all of a sudden I was stuck with engineers that I had to let go because there was literally no work. We had it all cut off after 1 week. We held on as long as we could, but it is what it is. So I came back in and basically took a different approach, looked at, focusing on the trade side of what I do. In the other case, I was a trade champion, but I was doing business and corporate level consulting. Now we're in the field testing stuff, fixing things. I've got over 40 years as an electric machinery tradesperson, an electrical reliability specialist, and overall manufacturing and industrial stuff. I come from the day when I used to rebuild my own engines in the car. Well, I couldn't even think about that now, but that's neither here nor there. So let's get into this. First, we are going to do what I should have done about 4 minutes ago, and we're going to try this thing. I've had some experiences with AI this morning, so this is now an hour and 10 minutes old. So let's go ahead and give it a shot, and then I'll tell you what we're doing. Okay. I like eggnog. And it would be really awesome if this tasted like eggnog. I'll drink it, but it is really... Oh, there's a little taste of it. Maybe something settled. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. No, they tried. No, sucks. That's no. So, anyways, yeah, I'll drink it. It's drinkable. It does not remind me of eggnog. I like eggnog. That is not eggnog. That is something that it seems to be trying to do it. Maybe they mixed it wrong, but they come in a pre-mixed. Neither here nor there. We're not going for it. So anyways, let's start into this. 2025 was an amazingly wild year. More interesting stuff has occurred on the reliability and maintenance side of the industry than I've seen in a long time. Couple that with a complete change in direction in a whole bunch of areas from a public policy standpoint. I'm not going to say whether it's good or bad. It just happened. And having followed the people involved in policy since the 1990s, I was kind of prepared. So we prepared for it. Instead, I shifted and I said, you know what? We'll spend the year doing a little more marketing and stuff like that, go to shows. Well, lo and behold, because of several reasons. One, there are so many trade shows now in this industry that you don't know which one to go to. Attendance that would be, measured in the high hundreds or early thousands now is measured in tens or maybe 100, maybe a little bit more, at least the conferences I went to. Skip some of the other ones towards the end, primarily because, the one I normally go to, the SMRP one in particular, it was directly in conflict with something else that I'm involved in, having to do with the national grid and international projects and something called Seagray, basically. I had to speak in Croatia on the topic of wind turbine reliability. So, and I represent certain aspects of Seagray and American Clean Power here in the U.S., so I went over there as a guest, and fun stuff. But anyways, that conflicted. So I had to do that over the other. It's the first time I missed one other than the hurricane that happened the year before in like 20 years. So I'm just making that clear. So this year, though, we went to a bunch. They were horrible. Basically, the attendance, if it was there, fine. We had a booth at the different places. Traffic was mediocre. We didn't have decision makers, basically. It was, I don't know what it was, but not repeating that again. I hadn't repeated in a while because of similar experiences before 2020, and after 2020 had just stuck with what we do for marketing. So if you see me at one of these conferences, you'll probably see me as a speaker, an invited speaker. Other than that, we're focusing on our business. And the reason we're doing that is because we're watching everybody throwing everything into the traditional ways of marketing, and they're not doing well, and we're watching the pricing going up. Well, I don't want to increase my overheads to have to pass it along for no actual return on investment. I study the stuff. So I've talked about that before. Now let's talk about why some of this stuff is happening. And it has to do with a very unsteady situation we're dealing with because everybody's worried about their jobs because of AI, because that's what the media has told us. That's what we're seeing on social media. Plus, there is a job dearth going on, meaning that there's a lot of layoffs and firings and all kinds of stuff going on now. And we can't trust the numbers anymore that are being given to us. So we sit there and go, because those of us in the industry, I'm watching people I've known for years that were rock steady in their companies, they were high level, they were very knowledgeable, poof, they're gone. Some of it's because of the promise of AI, but in a recent study it says, no, it's not because of that. As a matter of fact, only 17% of the layoffs are related to AI, and those are primarily not in the reliability and maintenance industry. Those tend to be in the business side. Okay, so now to top that off, if it's on the business side and business people are worried about stuff and they're trying to show their value, they're trying to cut costs, it's all having an impact, folks. And we're seeing it, especially smaller businesses. And while the economy sounds like it's booming, when you take a look at it, basically there are 7 companies, and they're all the high-tech AI-based companies that are propping up the stock market. It's been relatively flat. So I've been paying attention to this because we've had conversations with others, including people in our, space, saying, hey, what's going on? Well, we say everything's great, but it really isn't. Well, we're doing well because we're so diversified. And I've used it as an opportunity to bring in some new people, get them trained up, and start focusing on some of our technology. So I had AI draft me a podcast, and I was going to start out with it right away, but I do these on the fly. This is not practiced or scripted most of the time, but let me change that. We're going to follow the script a little bit. I verified the information we're going to talk about. And basically, I asked ChatGPT to assist me in writing a script. So we are going to discuss that script. So basically, it starts out and it says, back in 1992, James Carville hung a sign in the Clinton campaign war room that said, "The economy's stupid." And that's basically where that came from. That's a true story. I remember it. And I remember that was that campaign slogan. I mean, how do you defeat a winner? Well, you hit people in the pocketbook. That's what's happening right now. Again, we're watching, oh no, the prices are getting better. No, they're not. I travel the country. Gas prices are up. I went back to a standard gasoline vehicle because I did a comparison of my diesel to the gasoline and discovered all the inconveniences of diesel that I thought was going to cost me less and be better for the environment. Turns out that it's better for me to go back to gasoline, burn more gas, but pay a heck of a lot less because the numbers are being manipulated so the gasoline prices look lower. So, that statement though, and based on what I just said, it was a reminder to ignore the noise. Focus on what actually moves people's lives. And the discussions we're having, well, those are moving people's lives all right. So today, when companies talk about the economy, they're talking about labor shortages, AI anxiety. That's a big deal. I mean, we're seeing some horrible numbers of, people doing things to themselves and everything else. Reshoring, cost of capital, infrastructure spending, and the brutal reality of trying to run plants with aging assets and even older drawings, if drawings exist. I mean, some of the projects we do, I need drawings and so on. Yeah, they aren't there. And in 2025, every small and mid-sized reliability outfit learned this lesson the hard way. Your biggest competitor wasn't the shop across town, it was uncertainty, and that is a big deal. We saw a period of time when hardware sales that normally go overseas from here hit zero. Now, you're not supposed to say that. Our numbers are normally pretty high, but I sat there going, where are the numbers? We shifted our whole company over for a little while to straight service because basically people were promising, but they weren't signing anything because there was a lot of uncertainty in their organization. So let's get into the AI aspect. AI dominated, since 2022, but especially in 2025, not because it actually took people's jobs, but because it changed the conversation. It's everywhere. I'm even talking about it now, and it was not the intent on what I was going to talk about today. I mean, heck, the other reason I got rid of and I'm extremely frustrated with this vehicle, is the amount of distraction I get because they have AI built in. It's a computer on wheels. So let's be clear. AI did not replace millwrights or vibration analysts or motor repair shops. It didn't replace the tech crawling inside a mill trying to free stuck components at 3 a.m. It did replace some paperwork, some data crunching. Basic diagnostics, kinda, but I would say, I mean, heck, we use it a lot. I mean, that's one of the findings that came out through all of this, was that small businesses really have been more the adopters of AI, which is why I find it funny that large business is, the businesses where companies like mine would be the customer are the primary adopters of this stuff, but everybody's going after the big, win, and 95% of those are failing. I'll tell you what. I pay a heck of a lot of money for ChatGPT because it's not failing in our instance, especially not how we use it. So paperwork, data crunching, basic diagnostics, first pass analysis. I have over 40 years experience in the industry, and I'll use it sometimes and say, hey, ChatGPT, I'm running into this type of situation. In the back of my mind, I have an idea of what it is. Can you give me some insight on what else might have been occurring? Why do I say insight? Because it's going to reach out to its data bank of everything in the planet, all the posts and discussions that are publicly available. And it's going to see that some technician said, oh my God, this happened, da 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 da, and somebody else said, hey, have you tried this? And then comes back and says whatever. Well, that training is in there. So it's going to come back and it's going to give me an answer. It's going to try to please me with that answer, which means it's going to give me a lot of bullshit on top of some actual pearls of wisdom. This is where you must absolutely have an expert in the loop whenever you're dealing with questions on AI. So I don't care who it is. It could be Claude or whatever that X thing is or whatever else. I've fixated on one because I learned this one. And by the way, if anybody ever sends me a resume for, prompt engineer, I will laugh hilariously and then light it on fire. There's no such thing. And anyways, in 2025, the people who felt the most pressure weren't the trades. They were the new entrants in white-collar roles. Analysts, planners, writers, engineers doing repetitive documentation. Notice I said that, documentation. And then we're seeing people suggest in the reliability and maintenance world that, hey, AI can replace your documentation. No. No. We're having a problem getting that documentation anyway, especially CMMS systems. We must have digital transformation. Great. But if you have junk data and you transfer that into digital transformation and then you try to apply these new tools to it, you get what you get what you paid for, folks. You're going to have a ball. You are going to be spending more money than whatever. So then, of course, a number of companies, including some very big companies, have come out. I mean, we're talking about top 5 of the world type companies come out and said, oh yeah, we own CMMS companies now, and because your CMMS isn't working, because it's missing data and the data is wrong and everything else, we're going to use an AI to imply what was actually meant. Yes! Companies like mine really like that. We're starting to see more and more work coming from the fact that people are believing AI over their technicians. And tell you what, I'm not going to complain at all. We're ending on a great note this year because of that crap. It did not take long. I tell you what, back in the early 2000s, I did a paper and I actually did a podcast. I had a different podcast at the time. And I talked about future shock. And the funny part about that was I was saying, that you're not just going to have a problem, but all the automation of these things without having everything in place, you weren't just going to crash into that wall. You're going to crash into that wall faster without any warning. So, let's get back to this. In reliability and maintenance, 2025 proved something powerful. Hands-on disciplines weren't going anywhere. While you had data assisting things, basically doing some of the work for you. And I don't see an issue with, having AI automation assisting a technician in doing the thing the technician doesn't like in the first place. Right? Telling an AI on your cell phone or something else, oh yeah, replace this bearing, it looks blecky or whatever, but no root cause with it. We talked about that actually in a previous episode, how to use, kind of using it with root cause analysis. You basically had to do, in the past as a technician, your CMMS reports and everything else, but then you were having pressure for wrench time. So the AI concept is to try to take some of that away. And I see that as a strong capability. I mean, even the systems like the systems we have for electrical and current signature analysis, as well as some of the systems we're in development on now, which are trade secret, so I won't mention it, but all of it's designed around providing support systems for technicians. How do I transfer 40 years of really unique field experience into a way that somebody can look that information up or ask a question of what amounts to a chatbot? Because that's what all these are. An LLM is a chatbot. So what's going on with jobs in the reliability trades, let alone trades in general? If you tried to hire in 2025, skilled trades stayed in shortage because, now I was part of the team that went to the White House several times and worked with Raja Krishnamurthy's thing about, this was about 2017 going into 2018, on the Perkins reauthorization to get funding into skilled trades. We got it through. Okay. But it immediately got sopped up by other things like cybersecurity and other things instead of what we were trying to get, which is, telling younger workers that they could enter jobs in the skilled trades, that there is jobs waiting for them, that they could. As a matter of fact, somebody I knew that was involved in high schools had put in a welding shop and everything else based on that funding, and they were putting out, certified welders that left high school at the age of 18 and were seeing income starting between $65,000 and $85,000 an hour, and this is prior to 2020, and then what happened during 2020 while everybody else is sitting at home, guess whose jobs were considered, critical? I spent most of my 2020 in downtown New York City, in other parts of the country, carrying a letter saying, guess what, folks, I'm an essential employee, should I get stopped? And the nice part was being on the road, and there were trucks on the road, and there were service vehicles on the road, and we didn't have random civilians driving around, so it was a very safe period. Older workers actually gained employment stability. They're stating that's not true. We just watched as AI is being used as an excuse to eliminate workforce, the higher paid workforce over 50, because of an evil bastard called Elihu Goldratt. In any case, and there's people that are going to go, what? He said that and said evil bastard? Well, yeah. He's the guy who said, if you are telling me that you're saving money in a business, show me how many heads you cut, meaning how many jobs you've eliminated. That was how he said that's how you measure profitability in a company, by unemploying people. Plants leaned harder than ever on contractor and service providers like us. and as a direct result, companies like mine are growing. And cross-training because of the new gold standard. The perception was AI is going to replace everyone. The reality was AI, yeah, and this is true, AI replaced tasks, not people. I mean, it helped us accelerate our software development. I do not outsource anything outside my company. It's all IP, because I'm watching these different companies. They're all using the same companies in India and areas like that to do their programming, offshoring. And then it's a wonder why any two companies look identical and don't know how to do on-premises analysis. There's a few that are claiming it, but you still have to upload their data to the cloud. Meanwhile, every plant hiring a maintenance tech expected AI fluency, not mastery, just comfort. Well, this is a problem a little bit because nobody kind of trusts it. The experiences have not all been positive. So meaning the tech will be mechanically skilled with the ability to read an AI-generated diagnosis. So the question is, especially when you get into the older workers will have a tendency to want to turn the wrench and not spend a lot of time on computers, more or less. Okay, so public policy got complicated in 25 as well. So we saw. Now I was involved. I've been and still am involved in the what they've been calling the clean energy. I have always called it alternative energy. It actually, they're going, oh, this new stuff. Well, the new stuff is actually what was originally conceived way back when, from hydropower and Nikola Tesla, who came up with most of the stuff for AC distribution and everything else, including power generation, had identified wind, solar, and other things, hydro, as being the best methods. Well, J.P. Morgan, he owned mines, coal mines. He owned this, that, and the other thing. So, of course, it moved that direction. So we had large centralized plants instead of distributed plants. We had large centralized plants that produced power and used fuel that they could sell. Plain and simple. That's exactly the reason. So we didn't pursue certain areas, and then the technology really would have been difficult at the time. 2025 was a roller coaster, especially for small and mid-sized businesses as a whole. The good side, though, was especially because of this big beautiful bill thing, I guess they call it. 100% bonus depreciation is back. So that means that I can do a 179 on buying the tech that I bought this year. Doing some of the other things we did, I can depreciate it 100% in 2025 and on, after January 19th, I believe. Modernization incentives, we'll see if factories actually upgrade. We are seeing that happening in some, not really manufacturing. We're seeing it more, everybody's trying to get everything out of their assets. We're seeing it more on the utility side. Predictive maintenance technology is getting some tax incentives in 25, but it'll really roll out in 26, and we're banking on that as well. R&D incentives expanded for companies building their own analytics or models, and that we are planning on taking advantage of as well. We've done a lot in that area this year. So the bad bit is big corporations basically had the wherewithal to capture most of the benefits. We also have all of the investor-owned stuff coming in with that stuff behind it. So they're more focused on finding return on investment for the investors rather than services for the end user, and we've seen way too much. I get the emails almost on a daily basis. They want to come in and help me do an early exit. Early exit means that I've invested in a company and the idea is to sell it quicker instead of building something over a lifetime and selling that or having it inherited at the end. I'm old school. So for some maintenance firms, 2025 was the busiest. This is true in certain areas, certain sectors. And then energy policy, massive changes. I mean, that shifted workforce big time yet again. So that happened under the last change and again with this change in leadership. So what are we looking at in 26? Reliability and maintenance, trades in general, the jobs didn't disappear. They're shifting a little bit and they're evolving. The economy absolutely matters. What people are feeling it, when they go in the stores and stuff like that, and they carry that into their business mindset, meaning that, if I have to choose between fixing something now or leaving it till later, we're starting to see that leave it till later. That also means from a trade side, the projects we've gotten involved in are not as, and we see this every time the economy is starting to be in bad shape. This is our indicator, is that the issues we run into in the field are not, we're just going to fix this little item here in order to stretch out the life of the machine. It's, no, I get a call because of an emergency because a piece of equipment is flown apart. The bearing disintegrated and now the fan has dug into the housing and we need it back up within 24 hours and just crazy stuff. Systems still fail, motors still burn out, bearings still overheat, equipment still catastrophically fails unless you're using our technology. We'll cover that at another time because that's going to be kind of a fun one. The message isn't just it's the economy, stupid. Really, it's more along the line, it's the economy and it's the people that keep the economy running. So that has kind of a double edge to it. This means that we have, the trades that are keeping everything up and running, keeping that capability. Well, let me put it this way. When I was on the Theodore Roosevelt, when I was an aircraft carrier, and we were building it, and I sat down with the captain being interviewed on Sailor of the Quarter type thing, and the question was asked, what is the most important part of an aircraft carrier? And of course, the default you think of is the air wing. What's going on the flight deck, because that's really the mission. And his response was, everybody on the ship is, critical to the mission, because from the laundry people who make sure that everybody has clean uniforms and healthy uniforms to the food people that make sure we're all fed, dumb, and happy, and the trades, basically the sailors, the engineering side, that we kept everything functioning so that the captain knew when he called for flank speed that we could get to that speed, or if he called for aircraft being launched, that they weren't going to find that the launcher wasn't working, and they had to count that everything was going to do what it was supposed to do. And business is exactly the same way, except the sea level, the C-suite, they're expecting sea level. Get it? Sorry, talking Navy. But anyways, the C-suite is expecting that when you're aiming your company in a direction, that the people in that company are able to help you point in that direction. They're starting to streamline because they can streamline with some of these new tools. And the number one area where you're seeing the biggest change, mid-level management. So that area, that layer between the people that are on the floor working in the upper level, because I remember we were talking about it in GM in 2009. Why was the biggest change occurring? Because it was a diamond. Used to be a triangle where you had leadership and then you had structure building down. So you had so many people answering to so many people until you hit the work level. That was your broad area. Well, by the time 2009 hit, you had leadership, you had a bloated mid-level management, and then you had a shrinking workforce because the mid-level management said, well, how they'll survive is by bringing in outside sources and eliminating basically the trades, the unions. So in any case, let's get into a couple of myths in the trades, what's real, what's noise, and what's coming in 2026. I haven't seen these yet. I have asked ChatGPT to provide them. So let's start in. Myth number 1, AI is going to replace skilled trades jobs. Okay, the myth, in reality, what AI is telling me, it can analyze and process signals and pattern match faster than any human. As long as you've got enough data to train it, and to be perfectly blunt, most of these systems absolutely do not. So you can't classify without, tens, hundreds, or millions of data sets that basically identify that exact defect. Not that you have millions of data sets across all these machines, but you have to actually go in and physically classify what it is in your training data. AI, however, cannot climb inside a tank, align a shaft, pull a motor, diagnose failure at 3 a.m. by smell and gut instinct, which, by the way, when you've been in the industry for a while, the trades industry for a while, that is actually, I'd say more times than not, when I walk into a situation, I see how things are operating. I know what's going on. All of the testing is there is to provide the evidence so that it's believed. Industry hit hardest weren't trades. They were routine white-collar fields, writers, planners, documentation engineers, junior analysts. Everything else stayed. AI knows more about equipment than the people working on it. I guarantee that's not true. In reality, in industry, incomplete CMMS records, and you cannot AI your way out of that crap. No matter what people try to sell you, they're selling you that crap to get you to buy early instead of doing all the steps necessary to make it so you can use their technology. Okay, we're watching that across the board, and I'm pissing off a few people, and you deserve it. I'm sorry, AI should never, ever, ever, ever be used to plug in large gaps of sensor data and everything else. If you're a data scientist, because this is what we do, if you're a data scientist and you're looking at a set of data, you can put synthetic data in, but you have to label it as synthetic data. People are going to be making decisions off that stuff, and I tell you what I'm hearing feedback on is everybody's costs are going up because of this kind of crap. Missing working orders, inconsistent condition monitoring data. That's a big one. We're seeing a lot of that in the field. We're going to add more features to our vibration wireless thingy, but it's not going to always send the data. So we're going to imply what that data is between so that our dashboard looks good. And we're also not going to make any calls until it's absolutely end, because normally we'll provide way too many false positives, which means the small workforce that we claim that we're helping emphasize is actually now running around chasing and dealing with false positives. Legacy equipment with no documentation and nothing available on the internet for it to have learned from. And whatever a plant inherited from the last 17 plant managers, confidence is not competence. So that's words to remember. Confidence is not competence. So the fact that AI tells you something confidently does not mean that it is competent. Trades fill in the gaps. Reliability engineers interpret the risks. the IEEE 7000 series, we made sure, especially for the ones I was involved in, that you had human in the loop. You need that for ethical and governance of AI. You can never relieve the human being from that. AI is a machine learning model. It's going to do what it's been programmed to do. Okay, just like watching the driverless car video last weekend of the vehicle coming down the road, steering across multiple lanes and driving headfirst into another vehicle. Myth number 3, AI eliminates the need for reliability programs. I've actually heard that before, and I'm watching some companies trying to sell their software tools for that, especially like some of the CMMS related stuff. Okay, predictive maintenance, RCM, RCFA, lubrication programs, motor management, all of them depend on disciplined strategy. AI assists in developing those strategies. We use it as part of our assistance for those strategies. But you still need the failure modes, the criticality rankings, the skilled text, the prioritization, the planning and scheduling, and the risk-based decisions. So criticality rankings, I'm sorry, AI should not be used for doing that. There's a human element to determine criticality rankings. And if you leave off things, you get the same thing as what I talked about in a class I did on RCM last week. And that's simply that you won't get the right inputs, you won't get the right buy-in, and you'll end up with a computer or trailer full of nothing, of vapor. So AI is plug and play. Better not be. AI does require training, clean data, and that means somebody has to be there and go through the information that's going to be fed into the AI to verify that it's good. This is not throw it in and make it work, but that's what you're being sold. Plain and simple. Integration, permission structures, workflows that actually make sense, updates, and yes, human troubleshooting. I remember watching a comedy sketch a few years back, and what it was a group of actors got together and they said, AI, create us, and we are going to follow it exactly. Create a script on a science fiction. And so as they went through, wild stuff was happening. Things were there, then they weren't. Things were there, then they weren't. Just like creating the cover screen, the cover image for this, because I did it beforehand. I got here, hour and 10 minutes, folks, of sitting there, because I already had AI assist me with the script last night. This was an hour and 10 minutes old before, well, actually an hour and 20 by the time I drank it, or I tested it, and still semi-warm. I'm not missing much. And about 2/3 of that is going to end up in the garbage or down the sink. Ugh. So there's a lot of things. Plus being able to deal with things like, we're seeing a lot of these systems where they're saying, oh, you must have everything in the cloud. Well, all of a sudden, you're putting stuff from an area you want to keep secure. You're putting all your IP and everything up into the cloud, wherever that is, somebody else's computer, whether it's domestic or overseas. And of course, there's whole books now that I could go down to Barnes & Noble. I could order off Amazon, but I like looking at the books first. Barnes & Noble, because they're still in business, and they're on how to hack the cloud, how to break into somebody's account, how to get into systems. We're seeing it constantly. If you're not paying attention, pay attention. Cloud is not a safe place to be. Myth 5, AI will make younger workers lazy. Younger workers embrace AI because they grew up with tech, hate inefficiency, and want instant access to information, not just the younger folks. Yeah, there is something about critical thinking, and we're going to talk about critical thinking next week, I think. That'll be the topic. There is this whole thing with critical thinking, because we're even seeing it now. I think Wharton's, one of their lead professors put out that they're no longer going to teach critical thinking. They're going to teach, well, basically what it came down to is moving with your feelings. A new hire could walk in, ask an AI assistant, show me the procedure for pulling this pump safely, and then get an answer. Now, I have a problem with that. Even that statement there. I don't want to put into an AI, move this, unless I've had it help me develop that procedure and that an expert has then gone through it, verified everything, and included all the safety aspect, because AI wants to complete its mission. And if a human being has to take time to do lockout, tagout, and the instructions to that AI are, we need to do this as fast as possible, it will instruct that person not to tag out. I'm going to let that sink in, because I tested it, and that's exactly what happened. It had the technician bypass safety steps. So you do need to have people involved. AI is too complex for small shops and maintenance businesses. That's actually incorrect. It's the exact opposite. So small businesses like mine, we've adopted AI. We've successfully adopted AI in a number of areas. It doesn't dominate anything. It's an assistant. It makes it so that I can run with the number of employees I have effectively, and that they're not worn out and falling asleep at their desk because it's 2 a.m. Okay? So AI will remove the chaos from maintenance. AI absolutely introduces the chaos into maintenance. So it does not eliminate chaos from maintenance. The only thing that could remove chaos from maintenance is a structured system. AI either accelerates the chaos or can be used to help you identify it. Okay? So the bottom line, AI is not here to replace trades. It literally cannot. Okay, there's going to be trades involved. You have to have them involved. Okay, I'm seeing the result of AI-generated stuff on the road. You know, driverless cars scare the living crap out of me, because you're dealing with the biases of the people that did the programming. Yes, they've got a whole bunch of data sets in, but the world is not that orderly. We knew that when I was in the Navy. I mean, literally, when we were out for anything more than 30 days, when you came back in, they told you, don't drive for 24 hours. You have to settle into the chaos of human beings, because you don't know how that driver's going to act. I should start publishing some of the videos off of a daily trip where you'll have drivers come up. They will look right at your vehicle and then just accelerate through the stop sign, and the fact that you hit the brakes before hitting them and got lucky is common. Or any other thing that people do. I had somebody pull into a parking lot while I was in the process of backing up. Okay, I was fully committed to backing up. I was already turning and I was getting ready to go into drive, and they scream in off the side street and almost impact my vehicle and start doing the flipping me off thing, right? Luckily, I had that on video if anything happened. Because that is the one nice thing about computer on wheels, is that thing shows you videos in every direction. So I think, yeah, I did talk about that last week. There's some good stuff and bad stuff. So in any case, that is kind of what I wanted to cover. So the summary, my summary, let's see if it finally got what I wanted. Nope, it went a whole other direction again. That is ridiculous. It did not follow anything. So the front cover of this thing is not going to be the thing that I wanted, because the new update that they just installed has decided that I don't know what I want. They know what I want. It's just like my truck. Got up this morning and started it up, and all of my settings had changed because it did an update, and the Google AI that's attached to it decided that everybody else uses these specific features, so therefore you want them too. No, I don't want those features. I drive this vehicle as a service vehicle. I don't drive this vehicle as a personal vehicle. I'm not going, I'm not a soccer mom. I'm a field service person. I go in the field and I fix things. I need maps. I need this and that. I need it to work the way I need to. I don't need to have to be playing with the digital dashboard while I'm fucking driving. And anyways, that is one of the other concerns, as I'm concluding, is that a lot of these things that we're dealing with now, when it comes to the trades and implementing stuff in the field, we saw it from the CEO of NVIDIA, where he got ticked off at his employees, where the managers had said, hey, don't use AI for all this stuff. It's more effective to do it this way. He goes, no, you must use AI for it regardless of if you're inefficient. I'm paraphrasing that. But we're seeing that in other applications too. As a matter of fact, directions from another AI CEO, because they need to sell the shit so she can make her bonus, literally said, you must force your employees to use AI even if it reduces their efficiency. Why? Why? So she can go and tell her investors that it's got a greater adoption than it needs? I mean, if I were to use AI for everything here, I'd be out of business. If I use it for the things where it makes sense to use, and we say, hey, does it make sense to use it here? And we agree, yeah, let's do this. Marketing and some of the software stuff, I don't let it work with hardware. Absolutely not. I might use it to go find things that are available that I haven't found through Google searches or through contacts in the industry on specifics that meet my spec, and 9 times out of 10 it's giving me wrong information anyways. I'm not going to have that do it. If it makes sense to reduce my time, fantastic, I'm all in. But I'm not worried about AI going up and fixing the problem that I had to fix that AI introduced. That's right. So the bearing one that I had talked about before, where AI told somebody to lubricate it with the exact wrong lubrication that you were never supposed to use in the first place. Nobody thought to look at the instruction manual that specifically said, whatever you do, don't do this. But AI said, according to the instruction manual, it was okay. Neither here nor there. With that, in conclusion, AI has been a lot of hype. It is going to get worse in 2026 as the companies become more and more desperate. They've way overextended. If anything, I see from the people that I believe in the stock market side of industry or whatever, and basically the money folks, they're all starting to sound an alarm. I said it was going to hit in 2030 where the AI bubble would burst. They're suggesting it might be sooner. We're kind of preparing for it, but unfortunately, we know because the industry, we're service, meaning that when, the manufacturing side starts running into financial trouble, service is often the first thing to go, except when there's emergencies. And, there's ways we handle that to survive. So, long story short, key things to take out of this. Don't be too afraid of AI. It's a tool. It's a freaking chatbot, folks. It's like Clippy from the old Windows things, if you're old enough to remember Windows 95. It's not going to replace the wrench turners. There is no automation that does that. In fact, most of the humanoid robots they've been showing, most of them, all of them, are still being remote control guided off screen. Yep, you heard that. And if you don't believe me, look it up. Okay? None of them are automated and doing tasks on their own. They need help with those tasks. Okay, so they're not, and when they glitch, oh boy, do they glitch. Let's just say Not something I'm normally an early adopter, not something I'm going to early adopt. Would I hire a security robot that roams a set pattern and is looking for anomalies, movement, human being type stuff? That's actually a mature technology, meaning I used to use Wise in one of my businesses, and it got down to facial recognition and stuff like that. And that's an area I was studying in the early 2000s. So, yeah, not too bad. Are there some things that it can be used for that it hasn't been used for yet? I know it can. That's what we're pursuing. And we're not going to investors. Otherwise, those investors would turn around and talk to other people. And next thing you know, everybody will have the idea, and the people who came up with the idea will be stuck. So I've always wanted to do that on camera. That was fun. So anyways, no, AI is not out for your jobs if you're in the reliability and maintenance industry, let alone the trades. AI is not going to be an electrician. AI is not going to be a welder. AI is not going to be a millwright. AI is not going to mow the grass out here. It depends. It could be skilled. Some of the things they drive around now, I'm amazed. But anyways, the people that actually work, and I think it was a great South Park episode where they showed people, the person goes, okay, I need to fix the door on my dishwasher. Here's how you do it. And he pulls out his smartphone and shows his kids how to call the handyman. And as the episode goes along, all the handymen are then the billionaires, and all the billionaires are mad at, whatever, because they weren't taught the skills to survive. So there's basic needs that are needed. There's infrastructure that has to be maintained. The jobs aren't always glamorous. Everybody remembers dirty jobs, right? But they are the thing that kind of holds society up. So, you've got choices to make as you go into life. I'm not one of those people. I didn't push my kids into the direction they went. They're not working for me. They decided to pursue their own thing because I allowed them to do that. I didn't force them down a path. I really wanted them to be here, but one wanted to do a different area of electrical engineering, and the other one wanted to be a chemist. And those aren't things that work with this company. So, and I've supported them in every decision they've made. It's the same thing when your kids are coming up. The problem we run into is when people are discouraging them in the academic side of things that you must have a degree. Oh yeah, your liberal arts degree is going to be more important than learning how to turn a wrench. But what if I want to learn how to turn a wrench? And the real problem is when they look at somebody who they don't feel will make it through college and, has issues, we'll say, not able to think through something, no critical thinking or whatever, they say, oh, you need to go into the trades because you're not going to make it through a degree. Well, I don't want those people. I'm sorry, when I go out in the field and I'm troubleshooting something, I'm dealing with software and, complex electrical systems and all kinds of really wild stuff that you need the ability to think through it. So with that, the conclusion is it was a messed up year in 2025. The uncertainty was unbelievable. I know we felt it. We knew companies felt it. Decisions were hard to be made. We're still having people putting things off to the next quarter and so on that they should have implemented a year ago in order to achieve the full benefits. We're seeing things like that. We're seeing the push again from academia because they're losing money because people are stopping going to college and they're starting to go into the trades. Oh, no, the trades aren't going to give you anything. They're trying to tell you all the bad things about the trades. I'm sorry. I made a good career, a good living from the trades over the years. I got a PhD, and the PhD has done, the industrial electrician side of me, that's where I do The electric motor repair guy, that's where I get what I have. The programming side, I self-taught. The university didn't teach me shit. Things like that. So I went my direction. My kids went to university, and they're doing very well too. So, but they got into careers that did something, right? So that had a meaning. So it's not that university is bad or skilled trades is bad. Sometimes doing both, like I've done, is good too. But AI, for those that work with their hands, that are physical in nature, are not going to have too much trouble. Those who want a cushy job, sitting back with their feet on the desk, working inefficiently, that's where it's going. Some of the creative jobs, yeah, because I don't, like today, I don't have to have a graphic artist do it. I just tell ChatGPT I want something. It gives me something I don't want. I accept it anyways because I compromise, and this is all free. So there's certain aspects and certain things that will have an effect. But if the people in those industries, adopt it, I mean, I would want a graphic artist to have done what I did today because they would know exactly how to put in what they wanted and get something close to what they want. But you still have to be careful then about all the copyright issues, and that's another story. And right now, that's now a global war going on between the high-tech folks and new laws popping up globally. So the global AI companies are suddenly running into problems based on country or region. But that's another topic. I've gotten off base here. I forgot to say like and subscribe earlier. Please, if you're enjoying these rants and wanderings and probably longer than I should have discussions, please like and subscribe. I try to make these interesting on topic, and at some point I'll interview somebody again. We've been talking about it for a while, but usually I got something on my mind. I want to get it off my chest, and which means, by the way, when I talk, I don't really care if I get one viewer. So, but if you enjoy it, let me know. If you have topics you'd like me to cover, let me know, and we will go from there. So have a good rest of your weekend, and we will see you before Christmas.